Dean Curry here, Fantasy Football RSVP. So let's get right to it with the NFL Draft. Wow. And trades. What's going on with Cleveland? Cleveland's the real deal. 2019, I guess you have Baker Mayfield, you have Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. The whole team there, Sheldon Richardson, Kareem Hunt now is only going to be suspended 8 games. You got Chubb there. You have Oliver Vernon. The list just goes on and on. They're obviously going to have a great defensive team, great offensive team. Passing the ball around, and they're going to be a really good team. But that's why we play the games. You can't just assume, oh, they're going to take it all, win the AFC. You have a second-year quarterback who had some issues. Broke a record for a rookie and all that. But I think outside the box. And I remember, guys like Jarvis Landry, although he was double teamed. They did have other receivers on that team, Higgins and other guys that were capable. Their tight end, Njoku, and they had problems, and they were able to run the ball. And it's a little surprising. The numbers may have been pretty good for Mayfield, and he broke a rookie record. But I know the people that suffered having Jarvis Landry as a wide receiver. And granted, he was double teamed, and now he'll have a little less. But he was a rookie. Baker Mayfield, I get it, but he had some issues stretching the ball down the field. And before everyone starts putting, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, on their fantasy football team, I would do it with caution because Baker has one of his downsides, I believe, is a lot of times quarterbacks put up good numbers, like 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and stuff like that, but it doesn't always tell the whole story. And that's why we analyze the game on so many levels, psychologically and theoretically. We really, and one of the things that he had some issues with, and I'm sure he'll get better next year, especially without, a double team. But they had options last year. They had some capable, they were moving the ball, running the ball, catching out of the backfield. They had Higgins, Njoku. They had other options and Landry, and they had some problems stretching the ball down the field. And before everyone just thinks they're going to run away over the Patriots and everyone else, it is a second-year quarterback who also likes to run the ball a lot. Out of the pocket. And that sometimes also takes from stretching the field. I think their numbers will be good, but don't forget, now that, Landry's not going to get double teamed, it also means that they're going to share targets, so you have to factor that in, Landry's going to get 5-6 catches, Odell's going to get 5-6 catches, Higgins, was coming. He's going to get some catches. Njoku's going to get catches. They like to throw the ball out of the backfield. Just don't think their numbers are going to be ridiculous, because I'm not really feeling that. They run the ball pretty effectively too. And their defense is really good as well. So before everyone, starts thinking, oh, I'm going to pick these guys high, I would do it with caution because guys like Odell Beckham, obviously I'm from New York, big fan and all that. But just an observation, he's had some issues trying to get through an entire season healthy. And he's probably averaged about 8 games each year. And you want to consider those things, and it's not his fault. Sometimes people get injured. Sometimes they go after him. Sometimes they hit him hard. He also runs really hard cross route patterns, which I'd love to see him get away from a little. And that's sort of his game. But sometimes the guys that cross over the middle hard get injured a lot, and you have to sometimes make adjustments there. His injuries on a couple of them were on crossing routes. So that's just something that, you want to consider. But they're going to be a good team. There's no doubt. Something I want to say about the Giants, though, A lot of people say they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what their plan is, which to me, and it's all over the newspapers here in New York, that the Giants don't have a plan. It's over every major network, and I'm not putting them down. I love watching, all the major networks, but it surprises me when things that I don't consider to be intelligent are said. It's not intelligent to say that Gettleman doesn't know what he's doing, or the Giants are a great organization, they don't know what they're doing. And everywhere I look, I even hear analysts that are well-to-do analysts saying, Giants don't have a plan, Giants don't have a plan. It just, to say those things I'm not saying people are unintelligent, but to say those things, that it's not an intelligent comment, okay? And, I've been trying to post these things on Facebook and Instagram and different things, and I'm even getting blowback for saying that the Giants know what they're doing. And the reason why people don't know is it's not being covered. It's just the Giants know what they're doing. The Giants don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, okay? Beckham came in there. And what they're saying is it almost just looked like he didn't want to be there. And, he has his reasons, and I follow the guy all the time and like watching him play and all that. But, when a guy doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to be there, And, of course, I don't know the whole story, but that's pretty much what they're saying, that they could just see that it was a problem, it was going to be a problem. You can't have that in a locker room. And they got a really good safety, Peppers, and he's only played a couple of years, hasn't quite found his rhythm yet. But this guy was a superstar in college and high school, like beyond a superstar. And sometimes defenses that are played with certain teams are played a lot different when you play under a like Marquise Golden, that the Giants got. He played on Arizona when he played, under their current coach, that the Giants have. And, it's a difference between playing a 3-4 defense, which he didn't do well, versus a 4-3 defense. And now he's going to be under the right defense, where he had almost 10 sacks or something, 9 sacks, and then got injured, in it, and was having a season. He's going to blossom, but they got, Peppers, and this guy's supposed to be really good. He just hasn't come into his own. And he has come into his own a little. He's a good player. He's a starter. And they got a first-round pick at 17 and a third. And you know what? It would have been nice to even get more than that. But listen, the Giants know what they're doing. They're going to have $100 million in 2020. People rebuild. Oh, it's going to take them all these years. It's not going to take them all these years. Look what the Jets are doing with almost $100 million payroll. And this is what people don't cover. The Giants, got a safety. They got a defensive lineman that could rush the passer, linebacker. They got a guard. They shored up their offensive line, which was very, very weak. They got a defensive, lineman who could rush the passer, which was a very weak position. They got a safety, which was a very weak position. And, forgive me for saying this, but Golden Tate's a good receiver. He's a terrific route runner. And, you could say things about, players and stuff like that, but Eli Manning tends to do better with guys like Manningham and, he used to have that are great route runners, and Golden Tate's a great route runner, great slot route runner. He's shifty, and he's definitely formidable. He'll be their number one, and they got a receiver, so got a safety, got a receiver, defensive lineman, they got a guard. And what people aren't really covering, they have 12. Say it again. They have 12 draft picks coming up in this draft. And they'll have $100 million the following year in 2020. The Giants know exactly what they're doing. And the Giants have a very, very good plan. Actually, it'll be a little less than $100 million in 2020 because now you have to factor in the $10, $11 million a year given to Golden Tate, so they'll have $90 million Okay, the Giants know what they're doing, and Golden Tate's only 30, 31. He's got 3, 4 good years left. And he's a very good wide receiver and has put up good years. So they know what they're doing. It just really bothers me when people say, oh, they don't have a plan, they don't know what they're doing. They're going to bounce back a lot quicker, and they're probably going to get a quarterback in the draft. At the sixth pick. So we'll see. Or maybe they'll trade for, Arizona's quarterback. So anyway, as far as that's concerned, they'll be fine. As far as the Jets are concerned, I think the Jets are going to do really well. I'm not so sure Bell's numbers will be Steelers type numbers, but he's going to have good numbers. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to run the ball. People are saying the Jets receivers are awful. I don't know. Enumwa, Robbie Anderson, Crowder, not bad. And they may still pick up another wide receiver. I think they'll be fine. The Jets, I don't think they're quite a play. People like, oh, they're a playoff team. Rex Ryan say if they're not a playoff team. Come on. I mean, they have a second-year quarterback. They have a new system. They have a new running back. New coaching. New coach. They're trying to solidify things. You can't just expect teams to be like in the playoffs, especially in the AFC, which you got a lot stronger because this free agency that's going on. So the Jets will probably be better. If you would have me put a number on it, I'm thinking more 7-9, possibly 8-8. I don't think that's really going to be enough for a playoff spot, but I think 7-9, maybe 8-8. Their schedule's a little soft. Coming up, but it takes a while for teams to get things together, and they have a second-year quarterback that's developing, and a whole new offense. Too many new things, and when that happens, that's why temper expectations on the Browns, because they have a lot of good players that came in, but they have a new coaching staff or part of the coaching staff that was there at the end of last year. They have new players. It takes a while for teams to gel. They have a young quarterback, so before people start, looking at these fantasy football options, you got to, think of all these things. But I like what the Jets did. I like what the Packers did. The Packers really got, defensive line help. They needed that. They got defensive backfield help. And they really, for a change, they really, Amos Smith, Zadarius Smith, led linebacker. They really needed defensive help, and they're going to be really good, next year because they filled holes that they really needed. I thought they were huge winners, for this free agency. As far as Kansas City, I like them getting Tyrann Mathieu. I think he helps them. Safety, they were giving up a lot of big yards last year. He's going to help them a lot. But they also had to give up, Berry, and they had to give up, Houston, and they had to give up some defensive players as well. So it's sort of like the Ravens. I kind of like what they did with Earl Thomas and Mark Ingram. I think huge problem for them was the running game. Not overall. I mean, they were putting up decent numbers running the ball, but they couldn't find, a bell cow, a guy that they could rely on in situations, and that's what Ingram is. He's a huge answer for them. And Earl Thomas is a huge, answer for them. But, they did let go of, they did let go of C.J. Mosley and all their defensive players that have been there for years, 5 or 6 of them, and it's going to hurt them. So Suggs is gone, and so I think in the end, I think the Ravens are going to be fine. I think they're going to do good. And I really like the Earl Thomas, Mark Ingram, because those are real positions, and it's a good defensive coach. But they did actually give up, the stability of their defense. And they picked up, a couple of, good, well, one in particular, good defensive player. They cleaned it up nice. But I think they're going to be a good team, As far as the other teams, I don't think we spoke about the Raiders as of yet. The Raiders are going to be a lot better. A lot of people don't realize, Derek Carr, a lot of people give him flack. First of all, he threw for like 4,000 yards last year, okay? So it's not like he had such a horrible year last year. And who was he throwing to? You know what I'm saying? Really, and not only that, but people forget before his injury a couple of years ago, he was actually having like an MVP year. He was in the MVP conversation, and his teams were doing well, and they were saying Derek Carr, 12-4, or whatever their record was, 13-3, he's quarterback of the future. And what people don't realize is when you get injured, I'm a personal trainer. I deal with post-rehabilitative, injuries all the time as a personal trainer. People don't realize, like, injuries take time. Look at Deshaun Watson. He's probably going to have a big year this year. But did you see how it takes time? Look at Carson Wentz. He didn't have a great year last year. But it takes time to feel comfortable again. He's probably going to have a much better year this coming year, assuming, his back is fine and stuff like that and he's healthy. But when you have severe leg injuries, you don't just come back from them right away. And it takes time. And, it looked like Derek Carr was getting hotter and hotter as the year went on, like more comfortable, starting to throw the ball a little more. He's a little rough out of the gate, but that's what happens with injuries. Now he's got AB. And, I know people say, Tyrell Williams, from San Diego, oh, he's okay, he's not that great. But it's not just how good a wide receiver is, it's what he does. And when you couple a great route runner like AB, Antonio Brown, with, like a Deshaun Jackson type of wide receiver, or Brandon Cooks that could stretch the field, and that's what Tyrell Williams does. He stretches the field because he's fast and he runs great long routes, and that's just gonna stretch the field, and that's exactly the type of guy you want with a guy who runs the in and out slot, great routes like AB. It's just like a perfect combination. Because as they're covering AB or double teaming him, he's running this thing. This guy goes long, or vice versa. This guy goes long. They have to pay attention to him. It's going to open up things underneath for AB, and they have their tight end. And I think Carr is going to have a surprisingly good year, a really good fantasy football option. And it's not just because of Antonio Brown; it's part of it, But it's because he's going to feel more comfortable. And Gruden runs a diverse, offense. And if people really know Gruden, he likes to throw the ball down the field. May not done it a lot last year because he's being careful and he's working with what he has. But I've watched this guy coach the Raiders. He likes to throw the ball, down the field. That's why he got Tyrell Williams. So, yeah, I would look at the Raiders. They also got some defensive help, as well. Trent Brown on offense, and they're going to be really good. I think they're a playoff team. I don't think the Jets are a playoff team yet. I know Rex Ryan said they don't make the playoffs. They're not. It's asking a lot. But the Raiders were, a playoff team a couple of years ago, and they have veterans, and I think they're going to do a lot better. They have a lot of picks coming up in the draft. So do the Giants, 12. So I would look at that. Washington. Landon Collins is gonna help them, but they just have a lot of holes on their team. Re-signed Adrian Peterson. They have guys coming back from injury, both on the offensive line and running back, and now McCoy, quarterback, Whedon. They have different options. They have too many moving parts, in my opinion. I think they're going to be slow out of the gate. But believe it or not, the Redskins actually have a pretty decent team, and their defense is underrated, and their team's not bad. But the other teams in the division, other than the Giants, I just think are going to really press and do well. Like the Eagles, they got Deshaun Jackson back. He helped stretch the field. Comfortable playing there, and they did okay. Picked up a couple of people. Kansas City, the Ravens, the Jets, the Giants. I mean, those were the major players in this draft, and it's not over. So just know with this video, I'm making it on March 15th. We're gonna have more Fast and Furious things coming up, and it's just exciting because you're actually seeing the landscape of the NFL actually altering and changing, and you don't get to see that often. I mean, you've seen some major, I put this podcast out, and I did a blog on it, which I'll be posting later, and it just says major shift in the NFL, and it was a major shift. I haven't seen a shift like this in years, so I'm really excited about it. The Pats made a few moves, lost a few people. Some other teams, made some moves, nothing major. I mean, those were the major hitters that I more or less talked about. So, I want to wish you well. I'll be keeping this updated, the AAF once a week, maybe the NFL once a week or once every 10 days. We have the draft coming up. We need to go over that. And then we have great stuff, coming across. So I hope you all watch the AAF. It's been fantastic. If you haven't watched the game, start watching the games and watch my videos, because I'm actually covering it. Not a lot of people are covering. Not a lot of major news stations are covering it. Even on the major networks, they're not really covering it, but I am. So if you want to catch up and watch some of my videos and subscribe to the channel, by all means do it. Catch up and watch the games. They're really good and really, really exciting. So I want to wish everyone well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a wonderful, wonderful week in the AAF, and enjoy the next few days of the draft. And so have yourself a wonderful day.